Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Sully, and welcome to Sully's Mistake Factory. Now, you guys might already know me from Sundays with Sully, or from my YouTube videos with Navtronics, where we do builds and I do walkthroughs of the latest and greatest builds from Southport, Sabre, Backhoe, and other main OEMs. Some of our refits are where we showcase the latest and greatest in marine technology. That's not going to be this series, guys. This is kind of more of a behind the scenes, and it's going to be actually this boat right here, this big white mountain of shrink wrap. This is my personal boat, guys. And well, it's old, right? The boat's from '88, so it's been through a couple of owners. It's had a couple of owners put their own hands on it, and when you get to a boat of a certain age, the hairy homeowners kind of kick in and do some things. And hell, there's even a couple of things in here that have been done that I did that I'm not necessarily saying were best practices, but it works. I kind of tell people it's like this. You see mechanic-owned car for sale and people think that's a good thing unless you know a mechanic. And then you know, don't buy the mechanic's car, guys. It works, but you don't want to see how the sausage is made making that thing work. Buy the mechanic's wife's car? Sure, but mechanic's car? So we're going to go through in this season, and we're going to get on board this boat here, and we are going to go through and try and correct some wrongs as we get ready for spring and getting the boat ready to be launched. And hopefully, as this whole thing wraps up, we're going to have some kind of cool tech to show you guys and show you the steps involved if you want to do this at home on your own. So give us a follow on YouTube at Sully's Mistake Factory, or on our Instagram, Sully's Mistake Factory, to stay up to date on this one, guys. And let me know what you guys think. Let's hop on board and see what's going on. All right, guys, so we are on board, and the first thing we are going to be covering today, guys, Racor fuel filters. That's what we're going to be talking about in this episode. Racor fuel filters, why are they important? Well, diesel fuel, when it sits, can get algae growing in it, clog your fuel system. Hopefully you already have Racors in place, and the Racors will slow down and prevent any problems getting into your engine. But because they can clog it up, now you're going to have a fuel-starved engine, and that's going to lead to problems. So some preventative maintenance on the front end goes a long way. In this case, we're going to be taking apart a pair of Racor fuel filters that unfortunately have kind of been on the deferred maintenance side. Even though I used my boat a ton last year and I cycled through a ton of fuel, we also stirred up a lot of the dregs from the bottom. So we need to get that addressed. So what we're going to do is I'm going to grab a cup of donkeys here, and we're going to head down below and get these fuel filters removed. Now, you don't need to actually remove these Racors from the boat to do the job. I like it just because the way these are set up on this boat, it's a little easier, gives me a little more space, and if I drop something, well, I can pick it back up pretty easy and get it, whereas it doesn't roll into the abyss of the bilge. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to get the fuel filters to my 3208s, we're going to get those removed from the bulkhead down there, and we are going to get them off, we're going to take it back to the shop, and we're going to go show you guys how to rebuild a pair of Racor fuel filters. And I'm probably going to add a valve in there as well, because one's got a valve and one doesn't, and might as well make a match, right? So let's go check it out, guys. All right, guys, so we have the Racor off the boat. Now, I want to be clear, you don't have to pull the Racor off to do this job. To do a rebuild of a Racor, you can do it in place. But as you guys saw in that video, it's tucked into my engine space, and the potential for dropping nuts, screws, bolts, widgets, whatever, and making this job go from a quick, 15, 20-minute job to a half day or waiting for parts. It's easier for me to just take it off, and it's been set up as such. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to pull out this Racor from the box as I bring it here into the shop. You're just going to see, we've got it off. What this does not have, that the other Racor ironically did have, was an on-off valve here. So if you want to change Racor filters in the future, instead of having to go to your fuel tank and turn off your valve or trying to reach up in there, you can put a valve on here. So we've actually gone ahead, I've ordered up the new valve for that. So we're going to put a valve in here after we go through and do the rebuild. So let's go ahead and let's tear this thing down and show you guys the steps involved. Real easy. On top, we've got our T-handle. I've already taken that off. That allows us to take this top right off here. You're going to notice there's a gasket. Every time you do a new filter, it's going to come with a gasket for this. Just go ahead and put the new gasket in there. It's cheap insurance, guys. So go ahead, we do that. And then there's also these little lift rings in here. Sometimes you need a screwdriver or whatever, but you go ahead and you pull that out, and we're gonna see, guys, this thing is nasty. And yeah, this has probably been on the deferred maintenance program, guys, honestly. I don't think I changed this last year. Good news is I used my boat more than ever last year. So filter did its job, and we've filtered out a lot of nastiness out of there. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna take this filter out and put that right into my 5-gallon bucket right here. The other thing I'm gonna go ahead right out of the way is we still have some sludge and mung hanging up down here at the bottom. Even though we've opened up that valve at the bottom to drain it out, it's still not coming out. So go ahead and just tip it. Let's get it right out of the way right now. And that's why it's nice if you get a little 3, 4, 5-gallon bucket to do this with. Just go ahead and drain that out of there. The other nice thing to have when you're doing this job, a couple of oil-absorbed diapers and a catch pan for, like, if you're doing an oil change on your car or differential or whatever. It's really handy to have for this. So go ahead, and now we're gonna take a quick little look and let's see what exactly this stuff looks like. So that is everything that I've actually gone ahead and poured out of there. So you can see, guys, this is really nasty and has definitely been long overdue to be taken care of. All right, so that is out of the way. Now, what are we gonna do to break this thing all down and break this apart? This is really easy, and honestly, guys, I shouldn't have had this on the deferred maintenance program because it is that easy. So I'm gonna go ahead, we're gonna lay it down. Now, obviously, still probably going to be some remnants of diesel fuel in here. That's why I like to have the oil-absorbed diaper down. Go ahead. Got my 10 mil socket here. A couple of different socket sizes depending on your size of your filter, but the principle's still going to be the same. We've got 4 screws down here around the bottom that form a collar for this lower bowl area here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to loosen those up, and that's going to allow us to get this part opened up and start cleaning that out. Helps if we go the right way when we are trying to loosen this. Go ahead, break all these loose first, and then we're going to go around and make sure we can get them all out. Just a habit of mine I like to do. I like to make sure that they can all come loose first and then go from there. So there we go. We're all loosened up. It's real easy to come apart. Like I said, you can totally do this on board the boat. It's not a big deal, but inevitably it's one of these 4 screws you're going to drop. Oh, there is looks like a ball bearing or a stainless ball in here you guys are going to see in a second. You'll drop that, and I don't know about you guys on boat projects, but you lose the part easily and quickly. So go ahead, this is just an easy way to do it on a bench. You've got access to everything, and when something rolls away from you, you're not cursing as badly. So go ahead, one more screw to take out here. Bada bing, bada boom. That screw comes out. We go ahead, we set our socket back, and now this part is all going to come apart really, actually nice, clean, and easy. You're going to notice on this piece that we just took the bolts out of, this is just a collar. This collar holds this guy on. When you're taking this apart, don't be alarmed. There is no gasket in this area here. Your gasket is actually up here on this portion of it here. You can actually see, I'm gonna go ahead and pull that off. This is your gasket that's going to be your mating surface for this. So you've got that right there. Now, guys, before I clean this, let's just take a quick little peek here, and you're gonna see just how filthy nasty this thing is. Like I said, guys, this has been long overdue, but I mean, just look at that crud and schmeg and goop and nastiness, and this part will move around. You can kind of see in there, there's even more goop and more nastiness. So we're gonna go ahead and let's get that all cleaned up. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna set the lid off to the side. We don't need that right now, and put that with our screws and our gasket and the collar. I'm gonna start with the bowl. The bowl's pretty nasty. So what I like to do is take this far apart as we can. So what I do is we grab the old crescent wrench here, we open this up, and we are gonna take this thing all the way apart if we can, but now our hands are half slippery. Go ahead. There's gonna be another gasket on the bottom of this right here. There is an O-ring gasket that goes right around this. You're gonna wanna make sure that that stays nice and clean. Don't nick it up, don't scratch it, anything like that. Now, we'll go ahead and get our drip tray in here. move this over a little bit. And what I like to do is, some people like to use Simple Green, some people use degreaser. What you don't want to do is brake clean. That'll kind of eat away at the plastic on this. But what I like to do is first give this thing a wipe down on the inside here. And let's just get that first round of crap out of here, guys. Let's get this all cleaned up. And for the most part, you can wipe it all down. It's pretty simple and forgiving in that respect. But I like to put a little degreaser in there. Just give it a quick little squirt. You don't need a ton, but just enough. Just kind of work it around in there. And then take a nice, clean, fresh shop rag here. And we just wipe it out. And again, it's diesel fuel. You saw how dirty this was. We're not going for perfection here. I mean, we want it clean. We want to be able to look inside this bowl here and be able to see what exactly is going on with our fuel system. So that's it. When we clean that up, go ahead, we set that off to the side. Now this guy right here on top of the filter, as we get this, start breaking down a little bit more here, this turbinator right here, this guy, it's kind of got some harder plastic edges on it, so I kind of like to use a rag just to kind of protect my hands. We go ahead, and this is just going to twist right off there. When we twist that guy off of there, you've got to be careful. There's a couple of parts on here. We're going to pull this out, and look at that thing, guys. Let's see if you guys get a better view of that. That is nasty. That is gross. That is mung. That is not good for our motors. We go ahead, we set that down. Then we can pull off this guy right here. Remember I said there's like a little ball bearing looking dude in here? Well, there's the guy right there. And then you've got your washer check valve for that right here as well. So now this thing has been stripped down as far as we can strip it down. Now we can go ahead, we can take a rag, start wiping this thing all up and making sure we're gonna have a nice, clean, good chance for our fuel and not give us any spots for chance for algae growth and just the nastiness that comes with this. So it's just a matter of wiping it all down, guys. It's pretty simple, pretty easy, and just getting this thing all cleaned up. So we'll go ahead and get after it for a couple of minutes here, and I'll show you guys the reassembly and what we got to do for that. With everything all blown apart here, everything's all nice, cleaned up, ready to go for install. So let's go ahead and put all of these parts back together. So what are we going to do, guys? We're going to start off with this guy right here, and we're going to go ahead, and that gets this little ball bearing looking guy right here, drops right down in there. There's a little play in there. Then we've got a little plastic shim that keeps that in place there. And then this guy right here actually has 3 indicators on it. And those are going to be indicators that are going to line up here to index this properly on there. That just slides right on, nice, clean, and easy. Now, in order to keep that ball in there, if you tip this thing over and try and thread this thing in there, you're going to find it's going to want to come out because, well, gravity still works. So what do, guys? I like to take this thing, stand it up, and then just go ahead and line up the threads right here. Once you get it started, you're fine. Everything's going to be captured in place. So we go ahead and get that spun up on there. And then the next step we can do here is we want to take our gasket, make sure it's all clean and all nice. And we go ahead and we flip this thing upside down. And again, this is where it's nice working off the boat. We go ahead, we can lay this gasket down in place and make sure that it is all properly seated. There's a nice little ridge in here for it actually to sit in. And then we're going to take our bowl right here. We've gone ahead, that's all cleaned up. Remember, that's just going to drop straight on down there. That guy sits right on there. And now we get everybody to sit home, and actually, you can feel it. It sits in there. You're going to take this guy, which is our collar. That's kind of how we started this whole thing, right? We go ahead and we drop that on there. And you've got your 4 bolts right here. In my case, I like to start, again, all 4 of them, making sure everything is lined up. I always like to get everything started before driving any of them home. So go ahead and just get them snug, hand tight here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to grab our ratchet here. We're going to go ahead and click that bad area to on. And we are going to go ahead and draw this one down. Again, we're not going to go super tight with it. And then we're going to go across because we want this thing to sit down nice and neat. So we're going to kind of use that star pattern there. And we're going to go ahead and get that started as well. So then we'll go do the others too here. So guys, why are we doing Racors? Well, I mean, you saw how nasty it was. You saw what their job is. Well, maybe you didn't use your boat a ton last year. Maybe it's been sitting and you've got old, dirty diesel in there. Algae's been growing. You're going to want to know how to do this. And you're actually going to want to kind of know some maintenance on this, because if you're out cruising, this clogs up. You're going to be waiting for a mechanic to come and take care of all this. So being hands-on with this is actually really kind of a good thing to know at least the basic principles of, and carrying the spare parts and spare filters. I don't go anywhere without spare filters or spare impellers, because those are simple, easy fixes that will stop you dead on cruising. So once we get our bowl on, we're going to go ahead and reassemble our drain petcock valve here. Very simple, just thread that guy back onto there. Then we thread this guy back onto here. And that's it, guys. That is the rebuild of a Racor fuel filter. Pretty simple, right? So now we're going into the bonus round. Like I talked about at the start of this, guys, if you look on this Racor, any of them, they're always going to be labeled in and out. There's going to have markings on them, whether they're, in this case, on the top, or sometimes they're on the side, but they're always going to be labeled in and out. In my case, on the inside of this, I want to go ahead and put a valve on this so it matches my other one. So if I do have a fuel problem and I do need to change a fuel filter, I can just shut the valve off right here, not have to reach up over my hot engine and shut it off at the tank. So how are we going to do that, guys? Well, we grab the big crescent wrench here and let's see if we can break this loose. And there we go. A couple of turns here. We'll get this old fitting off of here. And again, pretty simple, pretty straightforward stuff here. Knew what sizes they already were ahead of time, so I went ahead and just purchased my Apollo valve here, and then I purchased this as well. So we're all keeping this all in the same family here. And when we're doing anything like this, I like to use a little pipe thread sealant on there to make sure we don't have leaks. So let's go ahead and cut this open here. One more cut, because it wants to be that way. And just go ahead and get a little love on the threads there, just to make sure we've got a nice seal. Because again, guys, whenever it comes to any fluids, but in particular diesel fuel, we don't want to have any leaks, or we don't want to have any place that we can allow air to get in. If we're allowing air to get in, we can now have the potential to allow air into our fuel line, and now you're going to airbound your motor. Diesel fuels really, they'll run off that dirty fuel, but they really don't like having that air in there. It will create problems, and you'll be chasing them down for God only knows how long. So go ahead, drive this bad guy on there, get him snugged up there nice and tight. And make sure that that's all good seated in there. And then we're going to go ahead, and this is also the reason we keep shop rags around. I don't care what the schmoo of choice is, whether it is pipe thread sealant, whether it's 52 bajillion, whether it's Sikaflex. It gets everywhere. I evidently am not blessed with the magical touch of that. So go ahead, we get that all cleaned off of there. And now that we've got our closed our nipple on there, we can now go ahead, dope up this side, and now I can drop the valve on there. Once we get the valve dropped on there, then I can go ahead and drop this guy back on top for our fuel line, and now we've got an easy serviceable setup on here. So go ahead and do that next. And that's it, guys. That is the first episode of Sully's Mistake Factory. We've got this all put together. It's all buttoned up. Hopefully you learned a little something about how to rebuild your Racor fuel filter. Maybe it's a little less of a mystery now, what's going on down there when you see this down in your engine space or by your generator, and maybe give you a little more confidence to try and tackle one of these projects yourself. If you like the content, you like what you're seeing, make sure to give us a like, a follow, and subscribe on YouTube and Instagram at Sully's Mistake Factory. We're going to be dropping a bunch more episodes here as the weeks move on, guys, so you'll want to give us a follow, and let's see what other good stuff we can get up to as we get this old boat out on the water and ready for this season of boating. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.